Well, hi everyone. Here we are in the massive ark. This really is a massive structure. I mean, 510 feet long, 85 feet wide, 51 feet high, and it's 15 feet off the ground. It's massive. In fact, we're permitted to have, by fire code, about 10,000 people in here. It's just amazing. It is a big place. But what we're going to talk about today, I'll have our zookeeper with us, Karina, and she does animal presentations at the Ararat Ridge Zoo and also the Creation Museum as well. And we're going to talk today about, well, more about the animals on the ark and certain animals in particular. We have done a lot of programs with the live animals, and we talked about 2 of each kind, 7 pairs of some that went on the ark. So we thought, you know what we should do is have Karina explain to us about how Noah and his family could have looked after some of these animals. What about the amphibians, the reptiles? How could they feed them? And what about some of the other specialized animals? In fact, one of the things you'll notice at the Ark, we have sculptures. They look like real animals, but they're sculptures of animals that you normally wouldn't get to see, even at other museums. We wanted to use some of the extinct animals to give people an experience that they normally don't get.
Yes.
So, Karina, tell us what we've got here and where we're at. And
All right, so we are on deck 1 of the Ark. So this room is a room you come in towards the beginning of your journey through the Ark encounter. And here we've got a lot of examples of food and water storage. So animals were on board Noah's Ark for about a year, according to the Bible. So that would require a lot of food and water to take care of them. So here we can show kind of how Noah's family might have stored some of this food, some of this water. So using the biblical model, which is the Kinds model, and God's instructions for Noah, God instructed Noah to take 2 of some, a pair of some, and then 7 of some, the clean animals and the birds, onto the ark, and all air-breathing, land-dwelling animals. So that adds up to about 1,400 animal kinds, totaling about 6,800 individual animals. So for 1 year on Noah's Ark, 6,800 animals would require about 322,400 gallons of water and about 400 tons of food. Now that sounds like a really big number, but actually that only takes about 20% of the ark's total volume, which would leave plenty of room for Noah and his family and the animals.
And not only that, on the second deck, we actually have exhibits showing how they could have collected water
Yes.
as well.
We'll talk about that as well. So there definitely was plenty of room on this massive ship to hold all the food and water for Noah's family as well as the animals. So as you walk through, you'll kind of see water jugs and food storage throughout the ark. So over here we have an example of potential reptile or amphibian holding. So amphibians are animals that must stay moist all the time, and they do qualify as land-dwelling, air-breathing animals, so amphibian kinds would have likely been on the ark. The two main examples of amphibians are frogs and salamanders. So you guys can think about your frogs in your backyard. Some of you guys might have some salamanders. I have a pet salamander at home. They do require some sort of moisture. They do require access to water. So we have these clay pots displayed here, and it's a great way that could have housed those amphibians. There's shelves on the inside, and it's got this burlap over the top, so Noah's family could have easily poured some water in, kept these nice and moist, and that clay pot with the burlap over the top would have kept a nice humid environment for those salamanders and frogs to thrive throughout the year that they were on the ark. Now, these housing could also have held feeder insects, just like we do in zoos today. Some of the animals on Noah's Ark may have eaten some insects throughout their voyage. So at our zoo today, we actually have colonies of cockroaches and worms and crickets that we use to feed out our animals, and they're very easy to take care of. So Noah could have easily stored different insects to feed the animals throughout their voyage in containers just like this.
And one of the things that I want people to understand, the amount of detail in the exhibits at the Ark Encounter
Yes,
and the
it's
Creation
incredible.
Museum, but it's absolutely mind-blowing, because what we wanted to do was to show how this is feasible, how they could have done it.
Right.
And it's also based on even present technologies. Why
Right.
wouldn't man back then have been very advanced in their
Yes.
understanding of animals and so on? And then they would have prepared for those animals on the
Yes,
Ark.
absolutely.
And so we're not saying this is exactly how they did it, but we're
Right.
saying this shows you how it could be done.
Right. It definitely could have been done this way. You can still keep animals like this today. So it's definitely a possibility, an easy way for Noah to keep those frogs and salamanders nice and moist throughout the voyage so they're happy and healthy when they are released in the post-flood world. So we're going to migrate over here and look at some of our animals that we have on exhibit here at the Ark. Now, these are not real animals. They were designed by our amazing team, and they're very, very lifelike. It's incredible the detail they've put into this.
If we actually get a close-up here, you'll think they're real. In fact,
Yes.
when people come here to the Ark and they walk through here and look at these animals, I've had them say to me, now, are they real? In other words, taxidermy specimens, but they're not. They're all
No,
sculptured.
they're not taxidermy. They are real sculptures crafted by our team. Some of these hairs were individually put in one by one. So very, very lifelike. So these are representatives of the bear kind.
And you know what, Karina? One of the things I should say to all the boys and girls
Yes.
watching this and the mums and dads, one of the reasons we didn't use taxidermy is because taxidermy specimens would be species today,
Right.
but they're descendants of the kinds that were on the Ark.
Correct.
And the kinds, like the dog kind, gave rise to all the different dog species.
Right.
So we wanted to make the kinds look different than today's species to
Yes.
show they gave rise to today's species.
Yes,
So that's why you
absolutely.
recognize it as a bear, but not necessarily a type of bear you see today.
Right. So today we have 8 species of bears left alive in our world today. They're spread all throughout the world, anything from the polar bear in the Arctic to the panda in China. So this guy here is representing the original bear kind. And a lot of people, one of the critics will usually ask us, well, what about the polar bears? How did you keep the polar bears cold on Noah's Ark? Well, Ken just brought up that the species we see today were not really represented on the Ark. It was more the original bear kind. And bears actually live in very temperate environments throughout the world. They can handle heat. I've seen black bears in Texas where I grew up. They can handle the cold. They live way up north too. So the bear kind wouldn't have had a problem at all living on Noah's Ark. And in fact, many animals that are specified to thrive in very extreme environments today, like the Antarctic penguins, do just fine living in mild climates as well. Actually, only 5 species out of the 18 penguin species alive today live in Antarctica. All the rest of those penguins live in warm weather.
Hey, can I just jump in here for a moment? Because atheists, people who reject God and reject his word, who say there's no God, they get on my Facebook and they make all sorts of nasty comments about how did the penguins get there from the areas of ice and snow and so on. Actually, there are penguins in Australia, the
Yes.
fairy penguins that live
Yes.
in warm areas.
Yep.
And they don't seem to realise that. But
Nope. The vast majority of penguin species alive today live in warm weather. I actually used to work with penguins. I used to work with African penguins, which are warm weather penguins, as well as cold weather. But yeah, only 5 species of penguin today live in Antarctica. All the rest of them live in warm weather. So that original penguin kind would likely have been just fine in a mild climate on the Ark.
Now, in Antarctica, they have penguins.
Yes.
What about the Arctic?
No. Good. All penguin species today are found south of the equator. So when you guys see commercials with polar bears and penguins together, that is not biologically accurate. Polar bears are all in the Arctic and penguins are all in the Antarctic.
There you are. See, we know our stuff here at the Ark Encounter.
Yes.
And Corinne is giving you all these facts. Yeah,
All right.
So continue on here.
Yes. Another fun fact about bears, really quick. Sometimes critics like to ask, well, what about the carnivores on the Ark? What did Noah feed them? Would they just eat the plant eaters? Well, Noah could have easily preserved meat by drying and salting and pickling, just like we do today. But there are a lot of carnivores that eat plants, and bears are one of them. A lot of people think of bears as really scary meat eaters, but 80 to 90% of all bear diets are plants. And even the polar bear, which is primarily carnivorous today because it lives in the Arctic where there's not a lot of plants, polar bears love playing with fruits and veggies. I work with zoo animals. I know a lot of zookeepers, and polar bear keepers will give their bears pumpkins and melons and cabbages to eat and play with, and they have no problem eating plants either.
You know, in Australia, they had an exhibit of polar bears at SeaWorld. Mm-hmm. And they had a sign on there as to what they fed them. Mm-hmm. And it said, you know, meat, mm-hmm. but then it was all a list of vegetables and fruits. And that's sort of indicative of the fact that originally they were totally vegetarian before the fall.
Yes. So very few animals today are obligate carnivores. That means they absolutely only have to eat meat. Plenty of animals that you think of as really scary meat eaters, like polar bears, even crocodilians. They're actually sharks that also eat seagrass, but crocodilians love to eat fruits and seeds and nuts too. So just because they eat meat today, sometimes they do eat plants as well. They would really have no problem eating some vegetation either.
And maybe we should show the boys and girls here that these cages are set up as real cages. They're not just props, to show how the waste from the bears and the other animals would fall through here into these particular containers, and then Noah and his family could wheel them out.
Right. So we actually use this system in our zoo today, even with some of our animals. So they've got this slotted flooring here, and Noah's family could have easily pulled out these trays or carts and went and dumped the waste. So very easy waste collection for these animals during their year-long voyage on the Ark. And then over here next to the bears, you can also see that really well with our sloth kind representative. So over here we have some Hapalops, which is a kind representative of today's sloths. Now today we have 6 species of sloth in the world. We actually have some sloths at our Ararat Ridge Zoo at the Ark that you guys can visit. We have 2 Hoffman's two-toed sloths, but here is a representative of what that original kind may have looked like. And you can see...
It's very different to the ones you have in the zoo.
Yes, and you can see they've got that slotted flooring, and we can pull that manure tray out to get rid of that waste very quickly.
Again, representative of the kind.
Right.
And then they can go see a species descendant of the original kind at the Ararat Ridge Zoo.
Right. So those original animal kinds basically carried all the genetic information necessary to create the species we see today through methods like natural selection as they spread throughout the world. Different genetic characteristics that were already there in the DNA were then naturally selected for to help that animal best thrive in whatever environment it ended up in.
So... any more on this side before we go to the other side?
Yeah, we got a couple more. You guys might recognize these. Then we'll go see some more animals that are not alive today. So here we've got a representative of the deer kind. There are quite a lot of deer in the world today. Some are very small, some are very big. So this here is Heteroprox, and again, it's more of a representative of that original deer kind, what they may have looked like. And then lastly over here on this end, we have the pig kind. So today we have lots of pigs in the world. We actually have some pigs here at the Ararat Ridge Zoo as well. We have 3 little Cooney pigs. Their names are Festus, Amos, and Eli, and they will be featured in our animal programming throughout the year. Pigs are very intelligent animals. They're actually one of the top 10 most intelligent animals in the world. So our pigs know how to do a lot of fun behaviors like walking on a harness, rolling out a red carpet. They can fetch, they can spin in a circle. So pigs will absolutely be featured in our zoo program.
And here's
once
the interesting
we open.
thing. When you think about the domesticated pigs that they use for breeding for food, you know, when you go and have ribs and
Yes.
pork
Yep.
and whatever, look very, very different to these. You can see
Yep.
that these are pigs, but they've been highly bred, the ones
Yes.
that are used today on the farms for
There's
food.
amazing variety within just the pig kind. We have warthogs today. We have red river hogs, which are these beautiful red hogs with long hair. We have the babirusa, which is like a naked pig from Indonesia, and it's got these crazy curled tusks that curl all over its head, and it actually swims really well. So pigs are a really incredible variety. There's a really incredible variety of pigs in the world today.
Hey, Karina, while we go over to the other side, is that where we're going now? To the
Yeah,
other
we're going to
side?
go peek at this stuff real quick, and then we'll
Because I
go
was
see
gonna
the
do
other
some-
animals.
I want you to do something with me here in
Okay.
a moment. Okay, you can quickly explain that.
Okay, so a lot of people ask about how these large animals could have fit on the ark, so we'll touch on that really quick since we do have an exhibit sign right here. So here you can see a wide variety of sauropods, which are long-necked dinosaurs. Now, these are the largest animals to ever live on land on planet Earth. And a lot of people wonder how Noah could have fit these on the ark. Well, Noah didn't have to fit these monstrosities on the ark. Again, we were talking about representative of the animal kind, so you just need the one representative pair of the sauropods. And you would actually want babies, these little guys up here. And we'll take a peek on our next video at our sauropod exhibit upstairs. But the little guys are a lot smaller, and they would have no problem fitting on this 510-foot long ship. You do want juveniles because they're supposed to repopulate their whole kind on the ark or on the earth after the flood. So you don't want these really huge older representatives because they don't have a very long reproductive life left. You want these young animals who are going to be able to have lots of babies and spread all throughout the world after the flood. So this 510-foot ship would have no problem fitting these little guys on there.
Well, we also need to understand that God chose the animals
Right.
to send to Noah to come on the ark, so Noah didn't have to go out and look for them.
No, he did not.
And he would have brought, as you say, young adults. That would make much
Most
more
likely,
sense.
yeah, that would make a lot more sense than bringing giant older adults.
and
then
the sea creatures weren't on the ark.
Right, so a lot of people like to throw a number out at us. So currently there are 9 million species of life on Earth today. And so critics will come out and say, well, did Noah have 18 million animals on the ark? No, of course not. So let's go back to what those 9 million species represent. 7 million of those species are non-animals, so plants, fungus, bacteria, and the remaining 2 million species are mostly invertebrates and sea creatures. And of course, Noah would not need to bring sea creatures onto the ark. So that leaves us with the ancestors of about 34,000 land-dependent vertebrates, or animals with a backbone that would need to come on the ark. So that would only total about 6,800 individual animals. So we did not need to bring any of these sea creatures on the ark.
Well, on our way over here, I want you to do something with me here.
Okay?
And we'll try, let me see, this one over here. I want you to come here, because I want all the boys and girls, mums and dads, to realize how big the ark is. So can you get on the other side here, and we'll see how far around we can reach.
Oh, yeah.
All right. See the size of these?
Yes, and they
Lodge
go
poles
all
here?
the way up. If you come here,
yeah,
you can
it's
look
absolutely
straight
amazing.
up and see how high it goes.
You go right up there to the roof. Look at that. This is an incredible
Really
structure.
incredible, yeah.
And of course, we've showed you it goes right down the other end.
Yeah, we're on the very end of it now, but it's really enormous. It's equivalent to 1.5 football fields long, so very huge ship.
Well, let's come over here, and these are animals that people just normally don't get to see.
Right.
So we'll go through these
over
pretty
here
quickly.
We have some representatives of some extinct animal kinds. So this first one here is showing a Quetzalcoatlus, which is likely the largest pterosaur that ever lived. So a pterosaur is a flying reptile, like a pterodactyl or a pteranodon. A lot of people think these are dinosaurs. They're technically, scientifically not dinosaurs. They're pterosaurs or flying reptiles. But these guys here would have grown to have a wingspan of up to 22 feet. So these are truly monstrous animals that used to exist. But as you can see here, these are representatives of juveniles, and they have no problem fitting on the ark for the duration of the 1-year voyage. So these guys are one of my favorite pterosaurs because they were truly hugely impressive, massive animals. And then over
They're
here,
beautifully done sculptures.
yes, over here we have some that are very similar, but they do belong to a different biblical kind. These here look a lot like Ornithochirus, which is another pterosaur, and you can see they've got that lovely display on their bill there. So again, another very large pterosaur. Their adult wingspan could have been up to 22 feet. And again, these are not dinosaurs, they're pterosaurs or flying reptiles. So
Yes, the word dinosaur, when it was invented in 1841,
Right.
applied only to land animals that walked on all fours.
yes, so dinosaurs are basically, your land
Not the
dwelling
flying
animals.
creatures
Not
or
the
the
flying
sea
or
creatures.
the sea creatures.
People
right.
tend to think like a Kronosaurus, like the
Right.
plesiosaurs, were sea dinosaurs, but there's no such thing
No.
as a sea dinosaur
No.
or a flying dinosaur.
Correct, yes.
So the word dinosaur is only for those land
The land
animals, that
animals. Mm-hmm.
walked on all fours.
They have special hip structures. That means, they walked a certain way, different to the
Sort of
reptiles
walk
that are
like-
alive today.
Yeah, instead of legs sprawled out to the side,
Sprawled
so
out,
more
yeah.
like a cow or a horse walking
Legs
along
underneath
like that.
them. So
Yeah.
they didn't just splat on their stomachs when they let go, kind of like our lizards do today. And then next to these guys, we have some pariasaurs. Now, these are a really interesting kind of animal, and all of the representatives of this order of animal are actually extinct today. They're called synapsids, and for lack of better descriptive, they're like mammal-like reptiles. And there were quite a few of these guys, and unfortunately, they have all gone extinct today. This here is a Scutosaurus.
Imagine living at the time of Noah, though, and being able to see these, or even after the flood.
I know, I'm
when
jealous.
they came off the ark after the flood, and to see these alive in the world. Wouldn't it be fascinating?
I would love to be able to see a lot of these animals, and hopefully, again, I can't wait, someday in heaven we can
maybe
see
God
all
will
these creatures.
remake some of these creatures,
I
yeah.
would love to see what some of these look like. So lots of animals that have since gone extinct, unfortunately, and just due to the reasons the animals go extinct today, that they like to create a lot of mystery around the extinction of dinosaurs, but really the same things that make animals go extinct today would have contributed to their extinction. Differences in climate, you can do man's activities, habitat destruction, overhunting, out competition from other species. So, it is unfortunate, but we do like to represent a lot of these extinct animals here too. We have one more, I think, over here. This is a Codylorhynchus, which is another synapsid. So this is another mammal-like reptile. And again, these guys are all extinct.
Yeah, some of these, to us, are sort of weird looking. But
Yes.
That's because we're not used to them.
Right, we're not used to them. And we have some pretty weird-looking animals today, even if you think about it. So God is a really creative artist, and he has all kinds of colors and shapes and sizes within the animal kingdom. So lots of incredible examples.
And we have other examples here at the Ark and on the second deck as well of
Yes.
creatures you don't normally get to see.
We have one more on deck one. This guy over here, you guys probably would recognize this one, all you kids who like to read about dinosaurs and other prehistoric life. This guy here is usually featured in dinosaur books. This is a Dimetrodon, but again, he is not actually a dinosaur. He is a synapsid, once again, that mammal-like reptile. So they've got those lovely sails there. Now, a large fossilized bed of these guys was found in the American Southwest, in Texas and Oklahoma, but they've also been found in Europe. So these guys were pretty widespread over the world, and definitely really a crazy, creative-looking animal.
And boys and girls, if you heard Karina there, she said people will talk about these as prehistoric animals, but from
But
a
again,
biblical perspective,
They were around when
history,
we were around.
history began from when it was recorded in
Yes.
Genesis 1:1. So when you read about prehistoric, what that really means is, from the evolutionary perspective, it was way before man or but
Yes.
all these land animals were made on the same day as the first two
Day
humans,
6.
Adam and Eve.
Yep, they would have been made on day 6. God said all land animals were made on day 6, so Dimetrodon would have been made on the same day as Adam and Eve. So, these guys, typically evolutionists will say these were towards the Triassic period, one of the first animals that came actually before the dinosaurs. But again, that is not, when we look at biblical history, that is not what God teaches us.
And of course, the other thing you notice is when they find the fossils and we do the reconstructions and so on, there's no transitional forms.
No.
They were fully formed, beautifully functioning, designed creatures. So, well, Karina, thanks. That's been a great little tour around here.
Yeah,
We're going
so
to do
that's
some
deck
more
one. Yep.
because we don't want to just talk about the live animals in the zoo. We want
Right.
to talk about them on the Ark as
Yes.
well. And of course, we don't have live animals in the cages on the Ark.
No, we do not.
So we'll talk about the sculptured ones that our designers have produced.
Yes.
But it helps us understand more about animals and the flood of Noah's day. So with that, we're going to finish.
We'll see you guys later.